Всем привет, мы продолжаем играть игру The Stanley Parable. Напомню, что в предыдущей части мы прошли две концовки. Две концовки весьма интересных, здесь я пропущу. Так, в чем суть? Я буду пропускать большинство всего, что здесь будет, в смысле из текста, так как мы уже в предыдущей части все видели, и я думаю, как и меня, вас интересуют только концовки игры. Значит, здесь мы все пропускаем. Короче, кто не видел первую часть, можете посмотреть здесь. Окей. Значит, напомню, куда мы ходили. Мы ходили в дверь налево. Давайте все-таки, не знаю, давайте пойдем опять в дверь налево, посмотрим, есть здесь что-то, что мы еще не прошли, потому что я немного подзабыл. Окей, здесь мы все быстро. Здесь мы все это видели. По-моему, мы вниз... Нет, мы вниз шли или не шли? Давайте пойдем вниз. Честно, не помню. Нет, по-моему, мы здесь не были. Блять, язык путается. Мне кажется, или все комнаты повторяются.
All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all. None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating?
Комнаты стали выглядеть похожими одна на другую. Вашу мать. И чё? Один минус нашего Стэнли то, что он не умеет прыгать. Ни хрена. Ну, я думаю, это естественно, так как у нашего Стэнли даже нету ног.
I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical star field, and it too appeared. It was so much fun.
Это типа снится нашему Стэнли? Или это голос творит чудеса?
One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly
Блин, сколько можно ходить кругами.
I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd, and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it
Сейчас
be?
посмотрим.
Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is
по-моему, нужно таки ходить кругами.
he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control. That this was a
Проснись,
dream.
Стэнли!
So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back,
Сказал проснись, он
the
взял
fresh
еще
air
раз
of the
уснул.
world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please. It's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal.
Кстати, жены у него нету.
Everything
Кто
will be
считает,
fine.
сейчас жены у него нету. Это мы увидели еще в первой части. Заметь, жены у него манекен. Ну, может, кто и считает жену за манекена.
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone
Но,
wake me up. My name is Stanley.
думаю, не наш
I have a
Стэнли.
boss. I have an office. I am real. Please,
У
just
него и
someone
так
tell me
работа
I am real. I must be
интересная.
real. I must be. Can
Ему еще
anyone hear
жены
my
манекена
voice?
не
Who am
хватало.
I? Who am I? And everything went black.
И
This is the story of a woman named Mariella.
история женщины по имени
Mariella woke up on
Мариэлла.
a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments, she considered the
Короче,
strange
суть
man.
в чем?
He was obviously crazy.
По-моему,
This much
Стэнли
she knew.
бегал по улице,
Everyone knows what crazy
орал,
people look like. And in that moment,
делал
she thought to
непонятно
herself
что,
how lucky
и
she
упал,
was to be
и
normal.
умер,
I am sane.
или как,
I
не
am
пойму.
in control of my mind. I know what is real
Короче, я
and
дебил
what isn't.
не прочитал,
It was
вам
comforting
уже
to think
виднее.
this, and in a certain way,
Если,
seeing this
конечно,
man made
кто
her feel
читает.
better. But then
Кто
she
нет,
remembered
можете
the meeting she
перемотать
had
назад.
scheduled for that day. The very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
И... Окей. Одна концовочка готова. Давайте пойдем посмотрим следующую концовку.
All of his co-workers were gone.
Так,
What
здесь
could it
все
mean?
как всегда.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Окей, давайте теперь пойдем в дверь направо. Посмотрим, что у нас там.
Stanley came to a set of two open
Дверь
doors.
слева.
He
Нет.
entered the door. This was not the
Нихуя.
correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
Так, мы в комнате отдыха.
Yes, truly a room worth admiring. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the
И
first
пойдем
open
мы.
door on his left.
Там, по-моему... Нет, там комната переговоров, или как она там называется. Я не помню вообще, где телефон находится. Мне кажется, там можно... Я слышал, что там можно выдернуть провод. И будет другая концовка. А можно поднять трубку, соответственно. Короче, сейчас мы попробуем.
And so he detoured through the maintenance
Или
section,
вниз,
walked straight
или
ahead to the
прямо.
opposite door, and got back on track.
Fucking shit. Окей, пойдемте вообще сюда. Окей.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his
Подняться.
boss's office.
Спускались мы
Hoping
уже.
he might find an
Спускались.
coming to a
Давайте уже
staircase,
поднимемся.
Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
А что если я наберу, кто помнит,
Stepping into his manager's office,
код или
Stanley was
пароль,
once again stunned
как
to
хотите,
discover
так и
not an
называйте,
indication
здесь
of any human life.
2845.
Shocked,
Если набрать
unraveled, Stanley wondered in
не те
disbelief
цифры,
who
давайте наберем
orchestrated this.
любые.
What dark secret was being held from him? What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from
Нет?
him.
Ничего?
And so the boss had assigned it an extra
Я уж
secret
думал,
pin
будет
number,
другая концовка.
2845. But
Но,
of course,
увы.
Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
И... Ладно, ничего нету. Давайте уже наберем
Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random
случайные
buttons on the
кнопки.
keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the
Итак,
newly opened passageway.
здесь у нас тоже один. По-моему, мы здесь все концовки прошли. Давайте посмотрим. Если что, пройдем еще одну, может даже две. Короче, увидим. Не меньше одной мы еще пройдем. Это 100%.
Descending deeper into the building,
Скорее.
Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long. Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control.
Как я помню, мы сюда ходили налево и ходили прямо, но здесь мы нажимали кнопку «Выключить систему». И перед нами открылись... Блин, ладно, перед нами открылась большущая такая дыра, куда мы вышли и пошли по тропинке. Сейчас же мы попробуем нажать кнопку «Включить систему». И увидим, что будет. Быстрее. Окей, здесь ничего.
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
Сейчас найду наш кабинет. Точно помню. Вот. Прямо. Темный кабинет. 427. По-моему, он.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never. It was unthinkable. Wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world?
Окей, побежали.
The proof, the heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in,
И мы нажимаем кнопку «Включить». Выключить. В прошлый раз нажали «Выключить», сейчас, соответственно, «Включить». Ну, понеслась.
Oh, Stanley, you didn't just activate the controls, did you? After
И
they kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine
я
for
хотел
yourself.
власть.
Is that what you wanted?
Я не знаю.
Control?
Я не хотел власть.
Stanley,
Я хотел включить
I
кнопку.
applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were supposed to let it go, turn the controls off, and leave.
Ну, я так понимаю, концовка со смертью Стэнли.
I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you do. For example, and I believe you'll find this
Скорее всего.
Stanley suddenly realized he had just initiated
Система аварийного самоуничтожения. Бинго!
In the event that this machine is activated without proper DNA identification,
Побегаем. Опа. Смотрите. 2 минуты. У нас осталось 2 минуты. Супер. Увидел здесь красную кнопочку.
Oh, this is much better than what I had in mind. What a shame we have so little time left to enjoy it. Mere moments until the bomb goes off. But what precious moments.
Что я тебе сделал?
More time to talk about you, about me, where we're going, what all this means.
Почему ты так жесток со мной?
What's that? You'd like to know where your co-workers are? A moment of solace before you're obliterated. All right, I'm in a good mood. You're gonna die anyway. I'll tell you exactly what happened to them. I erased them. I turned off the machine. I set you free. Of course, that was merely in this instance of the story. Sometimes when I tell it, I simply let you sit there in your office room, pushing buttons endlessly and then dying alone. Other times, I let the office sink into the ground, swallowing everyone inside, or I let it burn to a crisp. I have to say this, though, this version of events has been rather amusing. Watching you try to make sense of everything and take back the control wrested away from you, it's quite rich.
Блин, это была открытая дверь.
But I'm sure whatever I come up with on the next go around will be even better. My goodness, only 34 seconds left. But I'm enjoying this so much. You know what? To hell with it. I'm going to put some extra time on the clock. Why not? These are precious additional seconds, Stanley.
Еще минутка. Спасибо за щедрость.
Is it that you have no idea where you're going or what you're supposed to be doing right now? Or did you just assume when you saw that timer that something in this room was capable of turning it off? I mean, look at you. Running from button to button, screen to
Бегаешь
screen,
от кнопки к
clicking on
кнопке,
every little
от
thing
экрана
in
к
this
экрану,
room.
кликаешь по каждой мелочи в комнате. Какой
Or
ты
maybe this big red
угадчивый.
button, or this door. Everything, anything, something here will save me.
Прям страшно.
Why would you think that, Stanley? That this video game can be beaten? Won? Solved?
Кстати, когда я проходил первый раз вот именно эту концовку, да, ее проходил. Но я проходил не все концовки. Короче, первый раз, когда я ее проходил, я просто стоял на месте. Вот здесь. Когда он сказал, что я бегаю, нажимаю от кнопки к кнопку, бегаю от экрана к экрану. Кстати, это было не предугадано. Окей, да, я сказал, что я прошел эту концовку. Да, но это единственная концовка, которую я прошел один. Все остальные концовки я уже проходил с вами. 30 секунд. Уже 15.
Make it count, or don't. It's all the same to me, all a part of the joke. And believe me, I will be laughing at every second of your inevitable life from the moment we fade in until the moment I say happily ever up.
Да. Вот и все. Ну что ж, я думаю, на этом эта часть, вторая часть, в смысле, заканчивается. Скоро, совсем скоро мы продолжим. Ну а окей. Мы заканчиваем. Не забывайте подписываться, если вы здесь впервые. Пожалуйста, ставить лайки, комментировать видео. Это мне очень-очень помогает. Ну а всем спасибо, что меня смотрели. Всем пока.